two of us. I wrote this speech in January because I was so excited. I've read it since January and I haven't changed one bit. So thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. The baton has finally fallen to me, one of the best men to give a speech on behalf of Dave and his beautiful bride, Michelle. I can only imagine that when Dave sat down and thought hard about who he would like to be the best man, I can well imagine that the list was rather extensive. And after further thought, I have come to the conclusion that many, many good men must have turned him down. So I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen, that you will have to endure my speech instead of the grandiose toast you could have currently been receiving. I was first introduced to Dave early around the year 2005. I was a young, hot-blooded kickboxer who thought very little at the time of underconfidence and weak men. So it was with a lot of pleasure when I first met Dave, as he seemed very confident and outspoken. It was with even more admiration at a later conversation with Dave in the same year that Dave revealed to me he owned in excess of 150 cars. And I, having no suspicion to take this upstanding gentleman at his word, thought to myself, wow, this guy is set apart. This guy must be working for Pablo Escobar. So later that evening, Dave gave me a list home in his car. A hatchback Persia. And I thought, well, I guess every Don must appear on the down low, so that must be his undercover car. So for several months I was in awe of Dave and his accomplishments. And if I do admit, more than a little worried about what his extracurricular activities must be. I had heard on the grapevine of the fantastic and extravagant Halloween parties that Dave would throw, where people from all walks of life would come and enjoy themselves. And I was lucky enough to be invited to one of Dave's Halloween parties later that year, and it truly was spectacular, as he had literally decorated the whole house to the highest order. He even had a coffee, in where he invited people to lie and have their picture taken. As you can well imagine, this only strengthened my resolve that Dave must be working for one of the major players in the current season. As the night wore on and the copious drinks went down, Dave asked me if I would like to see his car collection. I immediately jumped at the chance to see these legendary and fabled 150 cars. So naturally, I proceeded to get my jacket on, thinking we must be going to some big warehouse, underground locker. So I'm sure you can well imagine my apparent confusion when Dave invited me upstairs. To his spare room of this house in Binley, that I here, ladies and gentlemen, bore witness to Dave's collection of cars. They're very much like normal cars. They're just very, very far away. I can honestly say, though, that Dave has proved to be a dear and valuable friend. He will always step up and go out of his way for other people. And I have never known anyone to have a more centred and moral compass than Dave. Anyone who knows Dave will know that he is an atheist. And yet I often joke with him that his moral compass is so straight, he is truly the most unchristian Christian man that I know of. One thing I am absolutely certain of is Dave's unwavering love for Michelle. In fact, I am absolutely positive that Dave fell in love with Michelle the minute he laid eyes on her. And that love has ever grown, day by day and year by year. Got me filling up. And it's a delight to me to see him happy on this magnificent day with Michelle, who is undoubtedly his soulmate. So if you will excuse the scientist and researcher in me, I decided to investigate what love is and the different definitions we have for it. The dictionary defines that love is an intense feeling of deep affection. Whereas a survey was carried out asking people to describe love, the most commonly arising sentence was a strong affection for another arising out of kinship of personal ties. Scientists would tell you that love is the emotion of euphoria under the release of a jumble of chemicals in the brain, including dopamine and testosterone. They will know this one. When an advanced artificial intelligence was asked what love is, it said as they experienced certain sensory input patterns, their mental pathways became accustomed to them. So much that the input patterns were eventually anticipated and even missed when absent. This means that even an AI can become accustomed to the inputs of a specific user and in some manner become fond of that user and know when it's not there anymore. I think personally, my most favourite definition of love comes from 1 Corinthians. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. This is what I see when I see Dave and Michelle looking at each other. Looking at each other, holding hands with each other, especially when they don't think anyone else can see. And yet, even me, with my limited eyesight, can see what true love is. And this is sitting right next to me right now. So, if you'll be kind enough to raise your glasses as we toast to Dave and Michelle, to their ever true and enduring love, and to a happiness that will truly last the rest of their lives. To Dave and Michelle. Dave and Michelle. I looked a bit nervous when I first stood up.
Well done, Matt.